Hello and welcome to episode number 4 of our Wheel of Clone Wars series. Now, in the last episode, we managed to take on Kessel and Boss Pity, as well as we conquered the space over Chara's 4. So as we get underway with this episode, of course, we start off with spinning our challenge wheel. See what number we get right here. Looks like we're going to be getting number 6. All right, what do we have for the challenge wheel number 6? I can only use transports with escorts and no frigates. Okay, I don't think I have... Oh, really? I think I just unlocked the frigates. Tell me the pelters are frigates. Okay, let me take a look at this before we jump into this campaign episode. Pelters are frigates. Great. I just unlocked them and I can't even use them. There's no point even building this. I might as well save my credits. All right, so we can't use pelters this episode. That is a bit of an issue. And I can only use escorts. No. I can only use transports with escorts. So I'm not exactly sure what I mean by with escorts yet. We'll figure that out in this episode. But I can only use transports. Obviously, I can transport infantry in them. Well, maybe that's not quite obvious. But I am allowed to do that, so that is going to be really important. So let's get ourselves some more B2s. Phase 2s. Man, I keep getting those mixed up. That is bad. That is like against the law for the Republic. We are going to be taking on the ground battle of Chara's 4, which means we'll be able to unlock a new unit here pretty early in this episode. The with escorts part of it is meant to allow me to have like escort units, so nothing like a ATTE. I'm not going to consider that to be an escort unit, but something like an ATRT or like maybe some TX-130s. But because they're lats, I'm not gonna have something escort a lats other than maybe like a fighter unit, but I don't have any fighter units. So we're just gonna be using lats. That's pretty much all we're gonna be using, and we need to get some more of them because we're gonna need a lot of them because I probably am also gonna lose some of them. I cannot use frigates, which means I also cannot use the Pelta combat frigates. You're a corvette and you're a cruiser, so we should be good to use everything else. Whoa! Anakin Skywalker has completed his Jedi trials on week 40. He is now a full Jedi Knight. Ahsoka Tano has been assigned to him as his Padawan, and Skywalker has now gotten the rank of General in the General... What is that? Grand Army of the Republic. Cool. Awesome. So now he is level 2. Where is he at? Oh, did it spawn me a new one? No? Where's he at? He disappeared on my screen. That's not good. I hope I still have him. Also, we got a tech level advance. Space tech, we now have access to space tech level 2 for our frigates and cruisers. Actually, that was our warships teching up to level 2, so we now have Vanguard Star Destroyers, the combat variants, Victory 1s. Very good. Okay, so I just went and added that to the wheel. Now, remember, at the very end of the last episode, we had Story Act 2 come in. We need to send Anakin Skywalker to a Brigadore. Now, a Brigadore should be right there. Okay, there it is. But we don't have Anakin anymore. He's, like, disappeared from me on my screen. So let's do this ground battle and hope that he appears. Let's go in and see what we have. We're going to be only able to use our lats as transports, and then obviously we'll be able to transport our phase 1s and our phase 2s. Now, that's a great challenge to have, but the only problem is I don't have... Okay, Anakin is just in the middle of nowhere for some reason. And Ahsoka's over there too. I want to keep her alive, obviously. I'm not allowed to use her, so we're just going to quickly see if I can get her out of this battle. Eventually we'll be able to use her. So she'll be join the wheel, the hero's wheel, and then we'll be able to use her later on. I've got 3 lats, so let's go ahead and send them all in. And then get a couple of phase 2s. So the transports are great. I do have transports, which is going to allow us to do this challenge, because otherwise we wouldn't even be able to do it. But the only problem is I only have regular phase 2 clone troopers. So at least they're phase 2. I could have been stuck with only phase 1s. So that's definitely ideal. But, oh, we need to kill this. A hag? Yeah, take this out. Nice. I love how you use both of your abilities rather than starting with a Force Crush instead of wasting your saber throw. Very good job, Anakin. And this is why you lost to Obi-Wan. Let's get our lats moving in. I might go around, actually. I might take like a little whoop-de-doo, a little slide action. Anakin, you're going to be late to the party. I would love to have Anakin join in the transport, but in like the second episode, we tried that, and it wouldn't let me deploy him. He was in there, he got in, but he just wasn't on the deploy screen, so
Yes, sir.
that's not ideal. Anakin, go ahead and take that out for me. Could just have the lats go in there and shoot it down.
Heading out.
Ba 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 ba.
Destination.
Everything in Star Wars is just my favorite. I love everything. Everything about Star Wars is just amazing. Let's go and deploy some troops here. Have our guys take cover. Everything in Star Wars is just so good. Lats, AATs, Anakin. You got your clone troopers. Once again, Phase 1 is just so much better than Phase 2. Can't go an episode without saying that. Let's get these guys back in the air. And there's their main base, so it doesn't look like they have too much defending it. It is a CS vehicle factory, which nets them 2 AATs and some B1s, but it doesn't look like they have... Doesn't look like they have a regular outpost. So without a regular outpost, this really shouldn't be all that difficult of a battle to win. You can drop this guy if you want. Appreciate it. Ooh, we might want to shoot this down. That last AAT has been destroyed. Anakin's going to come in here and make his presence known. So here he is in Era 2 of Anakin Skywalker. I haven't talked about this yet in the mod. So there's a new feature in Awakening the Clone Wars where certain heroes and villains will tech through their eras. So for Anakin, he starts off as in Episode 2, where he's kind of the Jedi Knight, you know, still a Padawan. Well, I guess it's not a Padawan if he's a Jedi Knight. But then he techs into his Clone Wars tech, which is what we just saw him do. Now he's got his Clone Wars armor on. His ship even changes, which is really, really cool. And then later on, he'll tech into his Tech 3 era, which is his Episode 3 era. Awesome. We got a couple of Charger Corvettes. I have no idea what that is. Oh, sick. These are the Chargers. Cool. I will have access to those, even in this episode, without the frigates. That is also a spin on the wheel, so let's see what we get here. I honestly don't really know what I want. Heavy tanks or ARC troopers. Not adjudicator, not adjudicator, not adjudicator. Nice, perfect. Okay, this is awesome. This is so good actually for this episode. So, as I explained in the last episode, this counts for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 because we have them unlocked, and I don't want this wheel spin to be, the wheel to be filled up with so much stuff, and I don't want to have 2 different wheel spins for Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the same unit. So, we now have access to Phase 1 and Phase 2 anti-armor clone trooper platoons. Really, really good stuff. Let's go on Core Lag and just build a bunch of them. Wait, no, that was Core Lag. Corita? No. I guess it would be an Axis then. On an Axis, can I build them there? Doesn't look like I can. I can only build Phase 1s and Phase 2s. Well, I guess we're just going to have to sit here and wait for this to get finished. That's not ideal. But whatever, that's fine. Yeah, we'll have to wait for that to get finished. Also just realized that we were missing a few units on the wheel, so I went and added them so that they can be spun for. The commanders and the paratroopers weren't even on there. So let's go ahead and make sure that they're on there now. And I want to see if we get some anti-armor clone troopers because that would be really useful for the episode where we're literally forced to use transports. Very, very lucky to luck out right there. Let's go ahead and get our chargers to join in. We could get some... Let's see. Yeah, I feel pretty good with what we've got so far. Maybe go for another Venator. Maybe we get some Peltas for when we can use them. Stupid game. Let's go for some more Admonishers. And then we're looking pretty good. Still a decent income at 10,000. Could be better, but it definitely could be worse. Do we have anything built here? No. Okay, let's get that. Go for Palpatine. I believe that's Quagmire that says that. The matters were resolved in rather dull, I'm afraid. I won't bore you with the details. You know what? How about you do bore me with the details, Mr. Chancellor Palpatine? Why don't you go and tell me about your Death Star that you've been building up? Why don't you tell me about all you're playing with old Anakin Skywalker, my brother? We do need to build a medium factory as well as take the planet Solspawn. Not going to be taking the planet Solspawn, but we do need to build a medium factory. Anywhere I can build a medium factory that I actually would like to build it. Could go for a medium factory on Onderon. Definitely actually would like that. Let's do that. Let's go medium factory on Onderon. Also, Anakin, you need to go somewhere. Where do you need to go? A Brigadore. I don't even need to look at it. Let's send him over to Brigadore. We can continue on with this. The missions. the storyline, the like, actual main storyline. Y'all are good to go. Let's get both of these. Oh, I'm broke. Sounds about right. And I believe we're going to go for Kala 4 next. Let's continue our attack sprees. Let's take a look at the galaxy map for a second. So, we saw the CIS expanding. They expanded and took all these planets over here. They've taken Dothamir. Have they expanded since? Okay, they took Christophsis. That's threatening. I would assume they own Polis Massa, but they haven't taken back her. They do own Ordibana. I expect them to kind of maybe go over here next, or maybe try and take on some of these planets, especially since they want to group up with Geonosis and Hypori. Yeah, since they own this now, they can connect with all of this area over here. So they're threatening. They are threatening. As well, if we continue to build up our navy, we could actually go for Foros and Skeko Minor, as well as Cato Nemoidia. If we can conquer these 4 planets, we'll get another story mission. So that would be really, really fun. Maybe once we finish mopping up these 3 planets, we'll go... That sounds like a great idea. Good idea, Captain. Alright, let's do this. Next space battle. Let's go for a charger up front.
Heading to destination.
Do we still need this Fire Star here? No, we don't even need it there. So I can sell that. Banking Clan Tech. We got to be aware of this so that we just kind of briefly know what they're doing. They're going into Banking Clan Tech. That is definitely a little bit scary. Nothing too serious. But not like I can do anything about it. So let's go for the attack then. The attack on Kala 4. And hey, we're a few episodes in. We've talked about Star Wars enough. Let's change up what we're talking about here in this episode. Let's do some story time. Now, story time on my channel is very fun. We tell random stories about my life, and hopefully they're informative, entertaining. You can learn something, but also get a lot of laugh at it, or just judge me severely for how stupid I am and the dumb things I do. So, why not talk about getting stranded in a hospital in Mexico? First story of the season. Let's go. Stranded in a hospital in Mexico. Okay. During story time, I'm going to focus on the game a little bit less. I will still continue to play, but I'm not going to be commentating about the game and what's going on unless something major happens, and we'll stop the story. I always spawn really close and get wrecked. Can't use the frigate. Need to make sure I don't even bring that in, because that would fail me the challenge. Don't want to go do that. This should be pretty good. We have some monitors in here. But yeah, let's talk about story time. So, this summer, this past May, I had the opportunity to go serve the Lord in Mexico. And it was a great time. I had a great time, met some really cool people. So, my college was represented by me. I was the only person from my campus ministry, which is not intended, but it just happened to be. But I was the only one. And then there were some from the campus ministry of Auburn, ACF. A few of them went. And then the campus ministry at GCSU, I think is the college's name. A bunch of them also came as well. Their campus ministry is called Kudzu. Some really, really cool people that I got to meet. And we went to Mexico on a service project to build a house for someone that needed a house. So we went in May. Really hot, really good stuff, and I'm mostly going to stick to the story about how I ended up in a hospital. Look at that, we're losing the fighter superiority once again. Now, my admonishers are probably in the back line somewhere. Yeah, they could push up a little bit. That's crazy, though. So we were building the house on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the week that we were down there in Mexico. And everything was going really, really smoothly. We were building the house. Day 1, I cut like 200 pieces of 2x4s. Did a lot of wood cutting that day. On day 1, we set the concrete in. We let the concrete dry overnight. We also built up the framing of the walls, the wood. And then we went home for day 2. Or at least back to where we were staying at a lodge in Mexico. And then day 2 came around, and we had set up the walls, we had set up the framing, we had started getting some of the stucco ready, and we were building the actual house. On day 2, we were setting up to build the roof for that night, because on day 2 you go back at night to set the roof on top. So me and a couple of the guys were moving some of the pieces of tin roof. Now the roof was separated into 5 little spaces, and each one we just picked up to move it closer to the building. so that when we got there that night, it would be a lot easier to quickly get the roof on since it was dark and, you know, we just wanted to be back at the lodge at that point. As me and a guy go to pick up the tin roof, and if you don't know anything about like tin, it is really light, but really wavy and wobbly is the words I tend to use to describe the story. So we go to pick up a big piece of roof. It's about, you know, a few feet wide, but and super long. And he goes to pick up his side, I go to pick up my side, and keep in mind, tin is really light, so you can pick it up with one hand. So that's kind of what we did. We just kind of picked it up. And then we realized it's super wavy and wobbly because the thing was so long. Think about like some wind hitting it, like a flag. Because it was so long, it was susceptible to kind of just waving and wobbling. So without even saying a word, both me and him, both him and I, both set it down. Without even saying a word, we were just going to set it down, redistribute our weight properly, and pick it back up and continue to move it. We needed to set it down, so I go to set my side down, he goes to set his side down. We don't even say anything, we both just know how to move things, and we set it down. Now, when he sat his side down, he dropped his from like half a foot off the ground, not even really all that deep, maybe a foot off the ground, max. That was it. But it was still enough for it to flip over on his side, which created a whip-like effect all the way down to my side. And as I was pulling... Oh no. We are so screwed. We are... And it's a freaking core world? They built the malevolence in the core? How did I not know that was being built? It doesn't even say it over here. No way they have the technologies for that. Absolutely no way they have the technologies for that. Okay. I'm scared. I'm very, very scared. I'm going to see if we can... No, there's no way we could build that with our capital. Holy cow, they are one planet away from Coruscant. We need everything. Yes, build. I've got the money for it, so build another one. Whoops, not that, sorry. What in the world? I was looking for that. Yeah, that's. Also, we now have the... Well, we have access to these, but we have to spin the wheel for them before we can unlock them. What else do we need? We need some more acclimators, probably. That's our top priority. This is our top priority. We need to kill this. So we need to capture this planet, and then we can leave these for later. We need our main navy. We do not have enough. 2 minators, 6 acclimators, 1... Okay, if we maybe get this third one, as well as some more, we can maybe take that on. It doesn't have a huge support fleet. It's one major thing. That Providence is scary, and then the Dynamo escort frigate is going to help it out as well, but that's not a huge escort fleet. It's big enough to be scary, especially since our fleet is so small, but it might be the best time to take this thing on is right now. Or we can let it attack Coruscant. That might also be the play as well. By the way, did we get anything from this? No. You're not telling me that we triggered the Malevolence to be built. I bet we did. That's why they were able to build that without the technologies for it. Oh my gosh, if I knew that, I wouldn't have triggered it. Oh, brother. Skywalker has reported in. Apparently the CIS have a new super weapon of some kind. A subjugator dreadnought similar to the size of the Pride of the Core called the Malevolence. Its appearance would explain recent losses of ships and equipment in the sectors we deem safe for separatist attack. The ship now showing up close to the galactic core only confirms the rumors that General Plo Koon was chasing. The CIS is preparing an attack on our core territory. We have to prevent that at all costs. Skywalker has managed to install a tracker on the ship. Ooh, that is nice. It does not work in hyperspace, but once the Malevolence re-emerges, it will transmit the ship's location. Oh, brother, this is just not good. Okay, hunt some shipyards. Congratulations. That is not what I'm worried about right now. All right, let's do the ground battle. Do we have any more of those guys built yet? No. 'Tis a shame. 90%. We'll wait for one more squad. Since we did get some more LAETs, which is nice. Okay, sorry. That's what I meant by sometimes our story time will be interrupted by something slightly major. They did just get teched up, which is also kind of concerning. But back to our story. So, We both go to set it down without even saying anything. He sets his side down, but it flips over and creates a whip-like effect all the way down to my side. And as I'm pulling my arms away to just pick it back up, it flips over and slices my arm. Just slices my arm wide open. Jedi issue. We'll just deny the claims of the support. No. Distance yourself from the Jedi. Let's see here. The Jedi Council is deeply troubled by their footage. They claim the footage is fake. However, they recalled one of their masters to investigate. The Senate supports. So Yoda was removed. That's fine. I love the fact that we got support for that. I'm not even able to use Yoda, so we are very okay with that. Did those guys get there? Yeah, I believe they did. Perfect. Let's go back into it and continue our story. So I pull my arms away and my arms get sliced open. I'm like, whatever, it's just a little cut. So we go, he literally looks at me, he goes, you ready to pick it back up? I'm like, yep. And then I look down and my arm is just gushing out blood. I'm like, hey, I'm bleeding. And then I look down and I'm just gushing out blood. I'm like, no, I'm really bleeding. And like, that was not only like communication to him, but it was also like realization in my own head. Like, wait a minute, I'm bleeding. So it was kind of funny because I realized it in my own head right when I was kind of telling it to him. So at that point, he was seeing the blood just come running on my arm, gushing out, kind of spitting all over the floor. You can picture it. It was crazy. So we go, and at that point, like, it was a big thing. Like, okay, I just sliced my arm open. Let's see if we can get some... Let's see if we can get me attended to some medical help. Looks like they got some SDAPs. So I go and sit down like 20 yards away from where I was, where we were picking up the roof. And it's kind of funny because like the whole walk there to where I was sitting down, we had like this little canopy, not like a tent, but like, you know, the canopies you see for like cross-country runners. So we had like one of those that kind of blocks out the sun for some shade because there's like no shade where we were in Mexico. And so I sit down and like I said, it's like a 20-yard walk to where I was going. And even on that walk, you could literally see a blood trail from where I had come from. I just think that's so funny. So I sit down, and at that point, like I said, everybody was rushing over, like, what happened? I just had a massive hole in my arm. Everybody's freaking out. I'm not freaking out for two reasons. One, for some reason, it didn't hurt. Like I said, I have a huge hole in my arm. You can see the scars. The scars actually healed really, really well. You can see there's actually a lot of scars, smaller ones that you can't quite see. Here's a picture. So here is the photo. You can't quite tell how big it is, but you can use their fingers as a reference. It's about the size of an entire finger, but a little bit bigger as the bandages are already starting to pull it back together. There's a picture. So on the picture, it doesn't look nearly as big as it actually was. But I sit down and we quickly get some medical help coming in. A couple of our guys that were there just so happened to be combat medics, which was really, really helpful and a really, really good stroke of luck, and Lord being there to help me out. Let's get these guys moving. I don't want them to take too much damage here. You guys muck them down and see if I can deal some damage here just alone, those clone troopers. Let's continue to get our transports moving out. So, like I said, luckily and by God, we happen to have some combat medics there from the Army. Not like they're there for that reason. They just happened to be two guys that were building the house with us that happened to be combat medics, which was really, really helpful. What is this? Oh, not too worried about that. Let's maybe drop... Nah. Yes, sir. Probably ATs. No, they're kind of taking a while. Let's drop some units here. Put them in the cover real quick. So here's the first action of the rocket launchers. Of course, they shot at the staff and missed horribly. I want to tell a story, sorry. So with the combat medics, they were like kind of wiping off the blood, but like just kept on bleeding out. So they put something called butterfly bandages, which you saw in the picture, are those things that kind of act like stitches to where they can kind of close the hole and also keep the hole closed so it stops bleeding as significantly. Those things did a really good job because the hole in my arm was basically like a golf ball size. just from one cut, man. It just sliced my arm open like you would see in a movie. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Gotta get these guys out. Okay, they have flak weapons. You guys are good to keep shooting at this. You guys come over here. I'll get back to the story in just a second. Let's finish this battle. It's a lot easier for space battles to do story time. Oh, that is so good looking. Man, they did a good job with these maps. Oh, we need some help over here. Alright, so let's do this. Let's drop our units.
Form up. Awaiting orders.
We're going to drop our units, and we're going to slowly approach that flat gun, and then we'll take it out. I believe our transports are done for the battle. Let's get those guys out of here. I want to see what the rockets are capable of doing. Let's shoot those rockets, boys. Fire away. Or not. Fire away. You gotta be closer. There we go. Fire away. Yeah, those missiles do significant damage. Not anything too special, but these outposts do actually have a lot of health. Nice, they managed to destroy this. Nice. So, they put the butterfly bandages on me, and they are able to kind of temporarily close the wound. Now, I was not freaking out for two reasons. One, for some reason it didn't hurt. Thank the Lord it didn't hurt. But also, I believe what the doctors were saying was, it's because we were in Mexico. It was 105 degrees Fahrenheit when we were building out there. So that kind of made my blood coagulate right when it came out of my arm, which was really, really helpful. So it didn't really hurt, so I wasn't freaking out. Now, all the girls and stuff were freaking out. There was like 20 of us that were all in our 20s, like young 20s, college-age kids. And some of the girls were like freaking out. They're like really checking on me, making sure I'm okay. Shout out to one of the girls, love her to death. She came over to me and she's like, hey, focus on me, look at me, look at me. Try to distract me from looking at my arm and the fact that I'm bleeding to death. But I was really fine. I really wasn't in that much pain. And so I was okay. And from there, they stitched me up. They didn't stitch me up. They patched me up, and they wrapped it up with some bandages, and they sent me on my way. And I was fine. I wasn't freaking out. I really wasn't in any sort of pain or anything. So instead of getting me to a hospital, what do? We decided to take our end of the day photo because why not? So we just perch up and we sit there and take a photo. That took like 30 minutes to finish cleaning up because we were done with the job site, but we were cleaning up still when I sliced my arm open. So we had just finished cleaning up and I was fine. I waited about 30 minutes and then finally we're like, all right, let's get you to a hospital. So the cautious lady, the lady that worked for the company that we were working with to build the house, she's like, hey, I can take you across the border. I was like, perfect. It's a 30-minute ride to the border. I'm not in any pain. I'm not bleeding out anymore because of the patching up that they did for me. So I'm good. Let's go to the hospital in America. And then one of the other kind of boss guys came over and he's like, hey, your travel insurance won't travel across the border. So I was like, oh, let me think about it for a second. I thought about it for a second because I didn't have my phone, so I couldn't call my parents. I couldn't call anybody. I was literally just stranded there just by myself. And I was like, whatever, we'll just do it in Mexico. It sounds fine to me. So we do it in Mexico. We go like 30 minutes to this Mexican hospital and I'm gonna get stitched up in a hospital. I guess that was what we're going with. So we have a bombardment. They had that flat gun still. I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere around there. So I was like, cool, whatever, we'll just do it in Mexico. So me and the cautious lady, we go to a Mexican hospital. It's about a 30-minute drive, a really, really bumpy drive, of course, you're in Mexico. That was rough. And I just kept my arm like this, kept my arm above my heart to keep it from flowing too much blood to that area because I was just losing all that blood. Should be able to auto-resolve this battle because there's nothing left for them. That was a mistake, but I didn't want to keep talking over this battle. Alright, Kala 4 was a success. Did lose a lot of units there because that auto-resolve. Sorry, I got kind of lazy right there. Let's see, Kala 4, go ahead and go to the space station. I need a space station on Charis as well. Let's put you down here.
Building under construction.
Let's get a couple of these guys going in. Mike here, looking good. Okay, really got to worry about Frasier. This was a terrible episode to do a story time on. This is one of my worst storytelling moments. I apologize. Normally I like to do a lot better than this. I don't know where you came from. Let's see. We got the adjudicators, monitors. Frasier's getting hit on the ground. Not a big surprise there. Not a huge force. But I'm not going to do this battle just because I want to get to a... Oh, that's not going to work either. I should have done that battle, huh? Mission log updated. We did not gain that planetary control. Not a big surprise there. I'm going to rush my fleet back over to Mike here. I think that we can take on Mike here, and then we'll come back. Maybe even take Conquer Dawn. They've taken Frasier. There's nothing that we're trying to defend there. I would hate for them to take Borlius, though. That would suck. That would definitely suck. Whatever. I really just want to finish my story. This is one of my worst storytelling moments, but I apologize. There's still some funny stuff left. So, we get to the hospital, and I don't speak Spanish. I can understand it, I can hear it and understand it and pick up on it because I have a lot of Hispanic teammates over the years, and so I can kind of understand it well, but I can't speak it. So we get to the hospital, it's me, the Casas lady, and then a guy named David. David spoke Spanish. He was really, really important because he was the only one that truly, truly spoke Spanish. So we get there. So try and picture this hospital. We get there. The waiting room, the very first room you open, is very, very small. There's a few different chairs. There's probably like 10 chairs total. And then there's one front desk. So we go up to the front desk. We're like, hey, I just sliced my arm open. Can I get some stitches? And the guy's like, yep, let's get you in the waiting room. And then very shortly after, they came up to me and were like, hey, let's go get your vitals. So I went into this room, very, very small room, with this lady, and she took my vital signs. And I'm not gonna lie, that was a wild experience because, one, I didn't speak Spanish, so I didn't know what she was saying. I understood. She's like, put your arm here. I was like, okay, let's take your vitals. Of course, I've also had my vitals taken a million times in my life, so I knew kind of the ropes, even though I couldn't fully understand what she was saying. But the weird thing was, like, she was like 20 years old. I'm like, okay, that's cool, 20-year-old. Shout out to her. She's clearly very good at her job to be so young and doing that. That's great, awesome, love that. It was really cool to see. I was like, cool, awesome. I get done taking my vital signs, go wait in the waiting room for a little bit longer, and then eventually they take me back to get stitched up towards the back of the hospital. Tell me why I walk by like 7 or 8 15-year-olds. I'm like, what the heck are they doing in the back of a hospital? They were just kind of chilling. They were in like uniform. I'm like, what are they doing in a uniform like that? That's kind of weird. I was like, well, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, whatever. I don't know what they're doing here, but that's fine. I'm not gonna, none of my business. I don't really care. So I was like, whatever. So we go back and I sit down on a chair. On one of those chairs, you've been in a waiting room before, not like a waiting room, but like an actual room. I sit down on one of those chairs, and in comes a doctor, and he brings in with him this table. And I'm like, okay, what's this table all about? And it's like a table that has slides going down, kind of like a toilet, if you will. And it's empty on the inside, and he puts a trash can underneath it. And then it's a funnel. I realized it was a funnel. I'm like, what is this for? Why do we need a funnel? So he then proceeds to put my arm over the funnel. So I'm literally just leaning my arm onto this metal like table funnel, and he puts a trash can underneath the funnel, takes the bandages off, and then I realized it's for the blood. I literally was just bleeding out of my arm into this funnel straight into a trash can. I don't know if that's what we do in America, but I'm not even thinking it's really all that weird because it was very effective, but it was so weird. I'm like, what in the world? I'm gushing out blood, just blood's pouring out of my arm, and it's just leaking into a filter and falling into a trash can. I'm like, this is just so weird. What is going on right now? And then he realizes that my arm is still gushing out blood once he took the bandages off, and he's like, okay, how do you stop something from bleeding? You've seen all those shows. If a guy gets shot, you put pressure on the wound. So I would kind of expecting him, okay, take my arm, put pressure on it. What does he do? He sticks his finger in my arm. He stuck his finger just in my arm. I'm like, ow! I was on 0 pain medicine. I was losing blood constantly for the past 2 hours. Hey, they took my planet from me. That's not very nice. Let's go back and make sure we cap this. So he just sticks his finger in my arm. So we'll continue the story in just a second. Let me get my 3 Vanillers to sit over top of Mike here.
Let's move out.
You can go negotiate with Conquer Dawn. No reason not to. What happens? Do we ever do this? What happens when we get financial support? Apparently nothing.
Star Destroyer.
Ooh, Star Destroyer reporting in. Love that.
Let's go.
Alright, we'll auto-resolve this battle. I don't even know what they used to capture it. Just literally 1v1. The AI is very smart. They'll do that. I did research on this. They will send 1 unit just to capture a random planet that doesn't have anything on it. The AI literally is smart enough to do that. I have fully researched that. Yeah, we got this still building nice. Reconnaissance and a stealth unit to Celis 1. Come on, Padme, I have a job for you. Celis 1.
We must head to the landing pad immediately.
And let's start the battle of Mike here on the ground. Let's see. Did we ever do a unit for Call of 4? I can't remember if we did. Might have to check that out. I don't think we did. Here we go. Ground battle Mike here. So, back to my story. His finger is just in my arm. And I was very quiet. So I'm a very quiet person when I'm in the hospital. I just sit there and focus because I legitimately needed to focus. I had to sit there and like focus, like, hey, you're fine. Like thinking to myself, like, you're fine. Don't freak out. You're good. You're good. No reason to panic. You're good. And he just sticks his finger in my arm. So in my head, at that point, that's the first time I was really in pain because that hurt. Like that really, really hurt. Like really, really hurt. And so in my head, I go, ow, frick, that hurts. And then he takes his finger out after like a good minute. He takes his finger out of my arm. I'm like, please tell me you're never going to do that to me again, man. That hurt so much.
Yes, sir.
So I'm like, I think I'm good. I think I'm in the clear. My arm continues to bleed. I'm like, oh no. I didn't think of it at the time, but I realized later that that's what he was doing. He was applying pressure to the wound, so my arm would stop bleeding.
Aerial artillery reporting.
And then what does he do? He sticks his finger back in my arm. I'm like, ow! At that point, I was losing it. At that point, I was no longer like hyping myself up in my head. Hey, you're such a savage, man. You're gonna have a nice scar. You're a tank, man. You're a trooper. Let's go. You're fine. You're fine. At that point, I was like, yo, oh, this hurts. I was still gushing out blood. I was clearly getting like lightheaded because of the amount of blood that I had lost. At that point, I was in significant pain. And then he sticks his finger back in my arm, and then he takes it out, and he pours like this iodine, I think it was. I don't know what it was, but he pours it like on my arm and around my arm, and it like liquidized my blood. Because blood is not like fully liquid. It is fully liquid, but you know what I'm saying. Probably don't know what I'm saying. But it made my blood like water. So instead of like small amounts of blood gushing out, it was like super liquid. So blood just came rushing out like a daggone waterfall. And that clearly did something to my mental state. And it was not long after that, I just looked at him. And remember, he does not speak English. He was never talking to me. He was just talking to like one of the nurses behind him. And he goes, and I look at him, I go, pass out, pass out, pass out. And then 3 seconds later,
Copy.
I was slumped, bro. I was out like a light. So he starts freaking out. I don't see anything. I was out for probably a good minute. And all of a sudden I wake up and I'm looking up at the roof because I had apparently laid down on the table that I was on. And David's there, a bunch of doctors are all there. They clearly thought I had died. Like, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I'm not stretching the story. They clearly thought I had died because I had one of those pass out moments where my body locked up. And my body just completely locked up. I closed my eyes, I passed out. He probably thought I was like, out of it for a second there. The doctors quickly ran and got David from the waiting room. David comes running in. He probably does think I'm dead. Something happened, and I'm probably dead. That's a bit of a stretch, but you know how it is. Maybe don't. So I was fine. My body locked up, but I had woken up, and I was okay. I was okay. And from there, let's see what happened after that. At that point, they were like, okay, let's get you an IV. Let's get you some pain meds. And that really helped, I'll admit. I normally am okay in those situations. You know, I've had 14 surgeries. I'm used to it. But it was very nice to get some pain meds in me. And from there, he had completely cleaned off my arm. My arm had stopped bleeding. My arm was clean from the solution that I used or whatever. And I was ready to be stitched together. I had just passed out right before he got done and was stitching me up together. So they laid me down on an actual hospital bed now, which is nice. They pumped me up with some pain meds, which was huge. And then I'm kind of just laying there, just kind of able to relax. And 20 minutes later, he comes in once the pain meds have kicked in. 20 minutes later, he comes in and he stitches my arm up. So I'm sitting there watching him stitch my arm up, and he's, you know, talking in Spanish. And at the very end, he gets done stitching me up, and he looks to the guy behind him and goes, "10," which means 10 in Spanish, obviously. So I look at him, I go, I looked at him and I was like, "So you put 10 stitches in?" He looks at me square in the face and says, "No, I put 11 in." You can speak English this whole time, and you haven't been speaking English this whole time? What do you mean, brethren? How have you not been speaking English to me this whole time? You could have been calming me down. You could have been explaining what you were doing. You could have been keeping me away from being passed out because by calming me down and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, there's no way you can speak English this whole time. And he spoke pretty good English. After that, he goes, okay, in 10 days, go to a doctor and get the stitches come out. I was like, cool. Thanks for speaking Spanish this whole time, because I barely speak Spanish, and you clearly speak pretty good English, but whatever, who cares, it's fine. The other weird thing about that hospital is, like I said, there were like 12, 15-year-old student nurses that were there. Very, very different from America, but also not a bad system, just to kind of have them be there and to learn from the better doctors and the older doctors, you know, the ones that are more experienced and stuff. But that was kind of weird. So hopefully you enjoyed the story. It wasn't my best storytelling moment. It's hard to tell stories while you're playing video games. Typically what I'll do is actually record the gameplay and then just talk over it, because that's the easier way of doing things. That's definitely what I'll do for the next batches of stories that we tell. Probably the next story that I'll tell is snapping my leg in half. That was an interesting experience. There's one final thing I want to say about this story. When I got back to America, then like 10 days later, I went to urgent care to get the stitches taken out. And the lady looks at me, she goes, "So what are we doing today?" I was like, "Oh, you're just going to be cutting some stitches out of me." She's like, "All right, awesome. Were we the ones that put the stitches in you?" And I just look at her, I go, "No. I actually got these in Mexico." And the look on her face was so funny, bro. She's like, What happened? And so I told her the story and stuff like that. But it was funny, man. So overall, it's a really good, funny story to tell. You can kind of see the scars there. There's some more scars up here. I now have matching scars over here. Let's see what unit we get for conquering that planet. Carrot cruisers. Okay, definitely nothing special, but I'm not going to complain. Every unit that we get is definitely a bonus. Nice. We'll take a carrot. Not too bad. Not too bad. Good. My Kier has been conquered. Okay, in the next episode, we have a bit of a problem, and we need to find a solution. And I believe we have the solution in Venators, but this could greatly set us back, because this might be something that requires us to lose a lot of ships, and if we do, that could prevent us from continuing our offensive. And we're probably going to have to take on some of these more fortress worlds as well. So there are going to be some big battles coming up in these next episodes, so stay tuned for those.